Welcome to today's Seidokan Saturday. Today, the kata Naihanchi for EQ, first Q brown belt, last step before Shodan to our first degree black belt. Naihanchi kata is one of the core kata of all Shorin-ryu systems. Now, I mentioned back with Sanchin kata, my Kenpo no Sanchin, and my diatribe about that whole history, that Sanchin and Naihanchi are used in similar fashions in certain martial arts systems. I'm going to try and start using this language, not style, but system, because a system is a curriculum of study. A style is me. My style, Schumacher's style, is based on the Seidokan system, but I move differently than Toma, the founder of the Seidokan system. Seidokan was his style, which became his system. I learned that system, but do it my way because it's my style. And so we have different way. A system is the curriculum of study, and the style is how you express that. Okay. If you listen to, I've listened to dozens of different pianists, for example, play Debussy's Clair de Lune on the piano. And there are some which are sort of perfunctory, very rhythmic and lovely, and others much more expressive and find the heart of it. And there's one lady that I watch, and it's just sexy when she plays it. And so their personality, their way of playing comes out through that music. Well, it's the same with karate. Back in the day, that's why we have so many different versions of kata and of karate. My Naihanchi may be consistent within 90, 95, hopefully 99%, like everybody else in the Seidokan system that does Naihanchi, but it's going to have that little bit of difference because I'm not built like 5'4" Master Toma was, or like skinnier guys or younger guys. And so we're going to move with our own style. It's important to distinguish between the system, which is Seidokan for us now. Seidokan was Toma's style, his way of doing, and became the system through which we study and then we express ourselves. This is important because it accounts for a lot of the variations. Now, in Naihanchi, you'll have some people who do almost the same stance, the Sanchin Dachi, but instead of the feet being offset, they'll be parallel. So you'll see some systems of karate do and they call it a Naihanchi Dachi, the stance that they use for Naihanchi, which is okay. Some will have almost a Shiko Dachi, some will be more upright, some are going to be wide and lower. You'll see variations in the stance, but as you look at what's going on in the upper body, hopefully there will still be what my good man Donnie calls the trunchial twist. I love that term. It's not just hip, it's not just koshi, but it's gamaku, which is my entire trunk, core, lats, back, erector spinae, obliques, glutes, adductors, abductors. All of those muscles are involved in the trunchial twisting, which is a real big component part of what Naihanchi is teaching us. I also mentioned way back with the Sanchin video that Naihanchi sometimes is used with shime, with striking, with an instructor checking to make sure your tensions are correct as you do the form. Naihanchi is used in the Shorin-based systems a lot of times, not always, not all Shorin-ryu systems you do this, but a lot of times it's used for shime, body hardening, testing, the same way that Sanchin kata is used in the Naha systems. Okay? So, Naihanchi, again, the stance variations, you'll see Motobu, Choki Motobu in his book, is fairly upright, but very much in Kibarachi, where you'll see variations where they're very much in more of a Naihanchi Dachi or a Sanchin Dachi, a turned in, knees pressed, those kinds of things. You'll see palm flat out in our style. You'll see palm up with the elbow bent, almost like an uchiuke in some styles or systems. Gotta get my terminology. So there are going to be variations, but across those little tweaks and changes of style, the system, Naihanchi, the kata itself, is very recognizable and almost, it's more identical than almost any other kata you're going to find in Shorin-based systems. Even with the differences, variations in stance, it's always extremely recognizable. We only do in Seidokan system, we only do the Naihanchi Shodan, we just call it Naihanchi, and there is a Nidan and Sandan version. Shotokan calls it Teki. Theirs tends to be, again, like most things after Funakoshi Gichin's son, Gigo, took over. His son kind of, how do I want to say it, made it more stiff and exaggerated. And then you get the competition, what are called shitegata, where you have to do it exactly the way that the tournament has determined this is the version that we will accept for competition. There's not as much room for personal expression in that, which is one of my things that I don't like about tournaments. At least the closed Japanese / Okinawan traditional tournament, traditional in whatever that means to you. But doing a shitegata where it is a prescribed, has to be this version of the kata. So there's room for, within the system of Seidokan, our Naihanchi, for the style of Schumacher's version of that. And I will be posting some things. Please read the description on this afterward. All right, enough talk. Naihanchi, one of my favorite kata. Naihanchi. So, some of the things. A lot of this, I also worked on this kata a little bit with Arakaki Kiyoshi, not Kyoshi, which means teacher, but Kiyoshi, K-I-Y-O-S, his name, Kiyoshi Arakaki, founder of the Musokai system, very much a Chokimotobu follower, a little higher, not as big and wide as perhaps Shotokan would do. Ronnie Nix, even back in 91, which is probably as close to when he and Tamai and my instructor Jody Paul were learning from Toma directly, as close to that. Some of the differences are Ronnie Nix, even back then, did a big sweeping across movement as opposed to bringing the foot to the knee. Big reason for that, it can be a sweep, but Arakaki sensei taught that my center of gravity should not shift too much as you move, that we're trying to keep it right here and simply lift from underneath without the center of gravity moving. Second reason is what we call the touch reference. So the feet coming to the knee is a body check that's my target on the other guy. And this is also consistent with what Seiyu Oyata taught in his interpretation of kata. And so I have more adopted that style to me within the system of Naihanchi that we do. So that you'll see those little variations from instructor to instructor, even throughout our system, that each instructor has their style. The other way of doing it is, instead of coming right in to my knee here, to actually come in front as if we're gonna sit, but not all the way across, so my whole leg goes, but just bringing the foot up to the front of the knee, still keeping that center of gravity. So we have really three main ways that foot movement can occur. In addition to the stance variations, this hand variation, you'll also see, for example, in Shotokan, from here, when we do this double block, they'll pull back and come forward with a full back fist strike, as opposed to a short grab and punch or grab here. And we'll see that when we go to the bullseye. So those little variations exist as stylistic differences based on whatever system of karate that the individual is studying. For our purposes in Seidokan Karate, that version that I just did is pretty much core within 99% of what most of us do, I believe. So we'll break that down more in the bunkai. There's a lot to be said there. Look for in the description, I am going to be posting 4 main performances of kata, of all of the Seidokan kata that are what I learned from the 91 video of Sensei Nix, who's president of Ryokoku right now, from the Tamai video in the rec center, his old video from the early 90s, late 80s as well, my instructor Jody Paul in my dojo in St. George teaching us together, and video from Toma's dojo itself. And between those 4, you're going to see they're all very, very, very similar, other than the fact that I've aged almost 25 years since some of those videos with Jody. I'm not 40 anymore, I'm closer to 65. So even my style is affected by my age and joints and movement at this point. A lot of stuff. All right, Naihanchi, one more time, a little bit slower. Hey, Naihanchi. Thank you for joining. I love this kata. I did it on the wall of Katsuren Castle in Okinawa. I have posted that previously as well. That's our kata for EQ. Thank you for joining. Sorry for being so long-winded. I get excited about this kata and all its variations and the thousands of self-defense. This is why it was the basis of Motoburyu, or not Motoburyu, of Choki Motobu's style of karate, because it contains so much. There is no one right bunkai. There are dozens of styles of doing it, and being able to draw all of the self-defense from those is really cool. So until next week, I'll shut up. Thank you for joining. As always, like, share, subscribe, and say it, let's keep practicing.